Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Sir, Bill Barr did not testify today before the House committee because he said, I ain't coming. Because Chairman Jerry Nadler wanted staff attorneys to question him. And he felt that was beneath him. I really think it was because he got his ass whooped yesterday in the Senate, especially by Senator Kamala Harris. Now, today, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi came out and said that Barr absolutely lied to Congress, and the rule of law has to be followed as a result. And the question then becomes whether or not Democrats are going to have the guts to actually hold him in contempt. Are they going to send federal marshals to compel him to testify or throw him in jail? That's one of the issues. You also have the White House attorney who has sent a letter to Bill Barr stating that Donald Trump has ordered his aides to ignore subpoenas from Congress. That means that one of the three branches of government is saying we do not have to follow the law from another branch of government. Are we on the verge of a constitutional crisis? Now, yes. One of the reasons Barr is really upset is because what happened yesterday when Democrats came after him with the full force, and there's no one else who laid the wood on him like California Senator Kamala Harris. And we played some yesterday, but it was so good. I told my staff, no, we got to play the whole thing. I want you to see the full questioning of how Senator Kamala Harris bore in on AG Bill Barr and made him uncomfortable to the point where he literally was in that seat squirming. And I'm sure he was probably saying, he probably got a call from Jeff Sessions like, she did the same thing to me, Bill. Y'all roll the tape.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General Barr, has the President or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone?
I wouldn't.
Yes or no?
Could you repeat that question?
I will repeat it.
Yeah.
Has the President or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone? Yes or no, please, sir?
The President or anybody else?
Seems you would remember something like that and be able to tell us.
Yeah, but I'm trying to grapple with the word suggest. I mean, there have been discussions of matters out there that they have not asked me to open an investigation, but
perhaps they've suggested.
I don't know. I wouldn't say suggest.
Hinted.
I don't know.
Inferred. You don't know. Okay. In your March 24th summary, you wrote that, quote, after reviewing the special counsel's final report.
But I will say that no one.
Sir, I'm asking a question. In your March 24th summary, you wrote that, quote, after reviewing the special counsel's final report, Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein and I have concluded that the evidence is not sufficient to establish that the President committed an obstruction of justice offense. Now, the special counsel's investigation produced a great deal of evidence. I'm led to believe it included witnesses' notes and emails, witnesses' congressional testimony, witnesses' interviews, which were summarized in the FBI 302 forms, former FBI Director Comey's memos, and the President's public statements. My question is, in reaching your conclusion, did you personally review all of the underlying evidence?
No, we took and accepted.
We accepted Mr. Rosenstein?
No, we accepted the statements in the report as the factual record. We did not go underneath it to see whether or not they were accurate. We accepted it as accurate and made our.
So you accepted the report as the evidence?
Yes.
You did not question or look at the underlying evidence that supports the conclusions in the report?
No.
Did Mr. Rosenstein review the evidence that underlines and supports the conclusions in the report, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge. We accepted the statements in the report,
Did
and
anyone
the characterization of the evidence is true.
Did anyone in your executive office review the evidence supporting the report?
No.
No. Yet you represented to the American public that the evidence was not, quote, sufficient to support an obstruction of justice offense.
The evidence presented in the report. This is not a mysterious process. In the Department of Justice, we have pros memos and declination memos every day coming up. And we don't go and look at the underlying evidence.
Sir, would you
we
support
take the characterization of the evidence as true?
As the Attorney General of the United States, you run the United States Department of Justice. If in any U.S. Attorney's office around the country, the head of that office, when being asked to make a critical decision about, in this case, the person who holds the highest office in the land, and whether or not that person committed a crime, would you accept them recommending a charging decision to you if they had not reviewed the evidence?
Well, that's a question for Bob Mueller. He's the U.S. Attorney. He's the one who presents the report.
But it was you who made the charging decision, sir.
What,
You made the decision not to charge the president.
no, in a pros memo and in a declination memo,
You said it was your baby. What did you mean by that?
it was my baby to decide whether or not to disclose it to the public.
And whose decision was
and-
it? Who had the power to make the decision about whether or not the evidence was sufficient to make a determination of whether there had been an obstruction of justice?
Prosecution memos go up to the supervisor. In this case, it was the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General who decide on the final decision. And that is based on the memo as presented by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
I think you've made it clear that you've not looked at the evidence. We can move on. I think you've made it clear, sir, that you've not looked at the evidence, and we can move on. Will you agree to consult career DOJ ethics officials about whether your recusal from the 14 investigations that have been discussed by my colleagues is necessary?
I don't see any basis for it. I already consulted with them, and
You have consulted with them about the 14 other investigations?
about the Mueller case.
Have you consulted with the career DOJ ethics officials about the appropriateness of you being involved or recusing yourself from the 14 other investigations that have been referred out?
On what basis?
Conflict of interest, clear conflict of interest.
What's my conflict of interest?
I think the American public has seen quite well that you are biased in this situation and you've not been objective, and that would arguably be the conflict of
Well,
interest.
I haven't been the only decision maker here. Now, let's take the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, who was approved by this Senate 94-6 with specific discussion on the floor that he would be responsible for supervising the Russian investigation.
I'm glad you brought up that.
Okay?
That's a
And
great
he has
topic.
30 years experience, and we had a number of senior prosecutors in the department involved in this process, both career and non-career.
Yes, I've
We're
read
all
the
agreed on
process,
the
sir.
disposition.
I have another question. And I'm glad you brought that subject up because I have a question about that. Earlier today, in response to Senator Graham, you said, quote, that you consulted with Rosenstein constantly, unquote, with respect to the special counsel's investigation and report. But Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein is also a key witness in the firing of FBI Director Comey. Did you consult
Well, that's
with I'm not finished.
Yeah.
Did you consult with DOJ ethics officials before you enlisted Rod Rosenstein to participate in a charging decision for an investigation, the subject of which he is also a witness?
My understanding was that he had been cleared already to participate in it by the.
So you had consulted with them and they cleared it?
No, I think they cleared it when he took over the investigation.
Did you
That's my
consult?
understanding.
You don't know whether he's been cleared of a
Well,
conflict of interest?
He would be participating if there was a conflict of interest.
So you're saying that it did not need to be reviewed by the career ethics officials in your office?
believe it-
to
I
determine
believe
if
it was-
appropriate?
Well, I believe it was reviewed, and I
And what
would
was the
also point
finding?
out this seems to be a bit of a flip-flop because when the president's
Sir,
supporters
the
were challenging
flip-flop, I think, in this
Rosenstein.
case is that you're not answering the question directly.
What?
Did the ethics officials in your office, in the Department of Justice, review the appropriateness of Rod Rosenstein being a part of making a charging decision on an investigation which he is also a witness in?
Yeah, so as I said, my understanding was he had been cleared, and he had been cleared before I arrived.
In making a decision on the Mueller report?
Yes.
And the findings of whether or not the case would be charged on obstruction of justice? He had been cleared on that?
He was the acting attorney general on the Mueller investigation.
Had he been cleared
He had been.
To make-
I am.
by your side a
I am
decision
informed that before I arrived, he had been cleared by the ethics officials,
of what?
serving as acting attorney general on the Mueller case.
How about making a charging decision on obstruction of justice
That
for
is
the
what the
underlying
acting-
offenses, which include him as a witness?
You know, that's what the acting attorney general's job is.
To be a witness and to make the decision about being a prosecutor?
Well, no, but to make charging decisions.
I have nothing else. My time is right out.
Thank you. Senator.
That's why Bill Barr did not want to show up today. He said, "Look, my ass already got roasted, so I'm not trying to get it roasted again." Joseph, this is an administration that has clearly said, we don't care what y'all got to say. And Democrats can't be punks. You got Nancy Pelosi, who's trying to stave off folks in her caucus who want to impeach him. Okay, I understand that political game. But what you cannot do is have an administration that says, oh, we don't care about y'all calling to testify. We don't care about your subpoenas. You're irrelevant.
Just the arrogance is just breathtaking. I mean, and one of the things that Greg had brought up about this is we have a rule of law or we don't. Either we have people who are going to testify and tell the truth or we don't. And you saw some clear, I think Senator Whitehouse called it like masterful hair splitting, and he's trying to like parse his words so carefully that he doesn't trip himself up. But Harris got him. I mean, she nailed him to the wall because this is what she does. And it was very clear that there was not a lot of speechifying. It was direct. It was to the point. It was a cross-examination that we should get used to seeing from this administration, and forcing him to answer some uncomfortable questions, which to this date they still haven't. And that's one of the reasons why that he is not going to the House of Representatives, because they're going to have another prosecutor question him.
That's the
And
reason.
so in order to keep the lies consistent, you got to avoid anybody professional who knows what they're doing to question, because so often there's a lot of speechifying and not a lot of getting to the point.
Greg, NBC is reporting Natasha Bertrand that the House Judiciary Dems are negotiating directly with Mueller for his testimony, bypassing Attorney General Barr.
Brother, that's where it's going to come to. I mean, in William Barr, you have an irrelevant man, a relic of a prior age, a man who believes in what Dick Cheney called the expanded power of the executive branch of the government. We don't answer anybody. He filled out his job application for this job by saying that I'll protect the president. The president do whatever he wants, and that's how he got hired. But the thing he's truly afraid of, and Kamala Harris, you're right, I mean, she eviscerated him. He threw everybody he could under the bus. And she's a former prosecutor, as are many senators, Senator Leahy, others. These are lawyers, the lifetime prosecutors, Blumenthal. But that House side, I listened yesterday to the motion that Jerry Nadler introduced that they passed through to allow, as you said, Joe, which is within the rules of the House, trained lawyers on the House staff to question him. That is the thing that he is terrified of. And when they threw every procedural roadblock they could yesterday into that, and Nadler just very calmly went on and pushed it through. But you're right, Joe. That is what he's terrified of, because this man has lied. He lied on record yesterday, and he should have been walked out of that room in handcuffs, because this is a constitutional crisis of the first order.
Absolutely. And I agree, Dr. Carr. And here's what's going to be the test. Democrats said to everybody, and not just people who were Democrats, people who were, independents, and people who are Republicans and do vote Democrat from time to time, listen, give us the power in the House and we will execute for you. Where are we now? When Nancy Pelosi came and gave that address late this morning, there was not any follow-through. What is going to be next? What process will be next? And so I think what's happening now is that with what Trump's people, that administration has in place, we don't abide by anybody else's rules except for our own. That's proven, in theory, to be more and more true with the inactivity of the Democratic Party to say, we're going to start impeachment proceedings, as you said. Well, since you did not show up to something that you were told that you had to be at by Congress, then we're coming to pick you up and we're going to take you to jail. So
Absolutely.
I think right now, this month is really going to be a show and prove of what Democrat leadership said, that when you give us power, this is what we're going to do in return.
Right, and look, and I said it, like all these conservative trolls on Twitter, because I said yesterday that if Obama did any of this, Republicans would be coming after him, and clearly some conservative tweeted it out, and then they're like, oh, Obama was so corrupt. Let me just remind y'all, do you recall any indictments? No. Do you recall any cabinet people having to be forced to resign? Nope. Do you recall Anybody pleading guilty, going to prison like a lot of Trump's people? Nope. That's what I'm saying. Nice try. But the reality is, this administration is corrupt. This administration is amoral. This administration has no character, has no values. They are thugs. They are grifters. That's what they are. And how do you treat a thug? You punch a thug.
Come on, brother.
How do you treat a grifter? You go after them. If Democrats had any sense whatsoever, they would say, you ignore a subpoena, we're sending federal authorities to your door. And if you ignore them, we will arrest you. There are 3 branches of government in this system.
That's right.
Judicial, executive, and legislative. All 3. It's called the equal branches of government. And you cannot have any party, I don't care if it's Democrats or Republicans, say I'm going to ignore one of those branches. Richard Nixon tried that. And the Supreme Court affirmed that the Congress had the right to hear those tapes. And what did he do? He quit, because he knew the moment they pressed play, he was going to be impeached. The issue that you have here is an administration, a president, Donald Trump. I keep saying hashtag, we tried to tell you. They had no honor or no decency. This is how he's always operated. And so the question is, will Speaker Nancy Pelosi, will she have the guts? Will Steny Hoyer? Will Congressman Jim Clyburn?
Call him out.
Will Congressman Hakeem Jeffries?
Yes.
Will the Democratic leadership literally say, you are not going to ignore the rule of law? Ball's in your court, Democrats.
See,
Do you have the guts to actually do it?
Trump has one thing, though, that Nixon never had, which was a Republican Party that's complicit in a lot of these.
It's true.
I mean, the Democrats got to do what they got to do. I mean, there's no question.
And you can't be scared to do it.
Right.
And you can't be focused on, well, this might hurt us in 2020. Guess what? You did that BS in 2016 and your ass still lost.
That's right.
And-
No, you swing when you can swing.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's what you're supposed to do.
No, that's the point. You know, it is interesting because I don't have a deep investment in this country in terms of its alleged moral superiority. We know it's not. American exceptionalism is a myth. But if we're going to talk about living in a society, we all live here. So we have to continue to work to try to make it better for us. You know, it's very disturbing to hear Lindsey Graham, who God only knows what they have on him to make him act this absurd. But for him to say, I'm going to call John Roberts and see what he thinks about. As you said, Joe, he's got a Republican Party, but he's also got the federal judiciary. Are they willing to throw this whole system over?
Yes, they will.
Well, yeah, and that was a tacit call, and that's what's got me most disturbed about this whole
Yes.
thing, is that they're ignoring subpoenas at their peril. Richard Nixon went to the White House, or went to the Supreme Court, was
Right.
ruled 9-0.
9-0.
Is that
No
going to
brainer.
happen?
It
in
won't happen this
Supreme-
time.
We are very much looking
Not
at,
this court.
at
That's right.
potentially a split decision
How about that?
over the very nature of the Constitution.
That's
And
right.
to me, that's infuriating.
That's
and
right,
it's just
Joe.
ridiculous and it's absurd. And of course, when you've got nothing to lose, hit. You know, Democrats need to do what they got to do.
Right.
But we also need to be a bit realistic about the system, and that is that the Supreme Court is a little shaky in my view.
Oh, very shaky, very shaky. Unfiltered, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.